Well, welcome to IMC Live. It's an interactive web show hosted by the Industrial Marketing Collective. I'm Peyton Warren, the marketing director at the industrial marketing agency Gorilla 76, and I am one of your IMC Live hosts. So this week, we're joined by who I'm calling a content creating maverick, Jordan Yates. Jordan is going to join us to talk about not just marketing, but the marketer. So you, we all want to advance our careers. Obviously, you're here listening to me talk, but we don't often talk about what that advancement actually looks like. So enter Jordan. She's a technical solutions manager at Noble Corporation and the creator of Jordan Yates Marketing, where she leverages her engineering background to help industrial businesses create fun, relatable, and technical content. She also helps them train their teams on how to use LinkedIn effectively and manages their business LinkedIn profiles. Oh, and she also has a YouTube channel and a podcast, does speaking engagements. So we're really glad to have her. She definitely keeps a little bit busy. But Jordan, welcome to the show. So glad to have you. What else should folks know about you?
Oh goodness. Yeah, no, busy for sure. I accidentally missed our prep call for this and I saw it after and I was like, oh crap, my bad. So yeah, sometimes I'm a little over the place. I feel like you described it pretty well. Definitely have had a very crazy career that's been anchored with the content marketing, which is something I never thought coming out of college as an engineer would be a thing, or like I didn't even know that was a route. So it's really been like learning as I go, figuring things out as I go. So that's why I like to come on and share these things with you guys, because sometimes we just like have no idea what paths are out there until we kind of walk them ourselves. And then we're like, okay, the world is, has a lot more opportunities than we thought.
Yeah, speaking of which, we hear that you've had a very interesting past year. So could you just kind of give us a rundown of what that's been like for you and how you've maintained your optimism and drive throughout the obstacles that you're about to tell us about?
Yeah, so it's funny because if you listen to my Failing For You podcast, I literally every episode last year was like, I'll fill you guys in later, I'll fill you guys in later, but I just never got around to actually talking about it. So I love I could talk about it here and I could just link this and I'll have to make an
Please.
episode. Like
Yes, it'll be a little bit cathartic.
yeah, yeah, no. So, how I maintain the optimism, I'll start off before I give the backstory. I just think I have a few screws loose, and like I'm a really glass half full person because I have a lot of faith in myself to figure things out, and also like God and all that. So, shout out God, if you're into that. So last year, it's been a little over a year now. I spoke at the Industrial Marketing Summit. I go in, I'm like, oh my God, content marketing. Love my job at Knowles. Like, I can't believe it's like the best company ever. Like 3 days later, I get back and my boss, gives me a call. HR is on the call, and I'm like, oh crap. I knew like the last year we'd had like 5 rounds of layoffs after we did our merger or acquisition of Cornell Dubilier, however you say it. And like just the business model was struggling. So they were basically reverting back to how they were, before my position existed. And so, got the call, hey, we have to let you go. And I was like, dang, like I loved working there. Like even now, like I can't say anything bad because like my boss Peter was amazing. Like just I felt so supported and like I wouldn't have been able to do all the things I've done alongside what I was doing there if it weren't for his support. And like I just learned so much marketing from that team as well, to where even a year later after the reflection, like I never felt bitter about it. But I was definitely sad. And so naturally, my husband's like, take a beat, breathe, whatever. And I get on LinkedIn. I'm like, guys, I was let go. It's like so embarrassing because sometimes, you feel like I don't know, like if I was better, if I could have done better, like maybe if I had more value, I could have stayed. But it was one of those things like, it was out of my control. But I luckily had my business going on the same time. So I was still able to, pay my bills and all that. But after that, I had a bunch of people reach out to me. Like that post like went crazy. And like I had so many people like, oh, we have this job you'd be perfect for. Cause there were so many people trying to poach me while I was at Knowles because of my LinkedIn presence. But I always like, no, like I'm loyal, I'm loyal. And I learned like, loyalty doesn't always like get you super far in terms of like being loyal to your employer. Because like at the end of the day, sometimes you're just a number on a spreadsheet and like they're not gonna like take your loyalty in account. So Yeah, I had a bunch of different job interviews, but I was holding out because I was like, like I don't want to jump into something right away. Like this is a pivotal moment in my career. I want to be able to pick something that is like where I want to be. And I was like, I don't even know which direction I want to go. So I focused more and doubled down on my business and was just like, okay, I'll take interviews for things I like. And then in the meantime, I'll just like, give my customers a better experience. And so did that for a while. And then a couple months later, I got a job for an offshore oil and gas software company. And that was a pill. So it didn't take me long to reflect that that wasn't a great situation. It was one of those things where the company was like an awesome technology and idea, but the management was very paranoid, stressed out, and like it wasn't like a good role because like the leadership going down was just, very like fear mongering kind of like culture. Like it was really weird. And during that time, I was only there for like 4 months. I got poached by where I'm at now, Noble. And it made me sick to my stomach to change jobs after having, just been laid off, only been at a job for 4 months, changing jobs again. And my now husband was like, Jordan, like, you are so stressed every time you change your job. And like, you bring the stress into the house and like, put your all into everything you do. So like, for months at a time, it's like you dive fully into that job and then you neglect your home life. And then you still got to keep up with my side business. And so it was just like for months my home life was just like chaos because I used to have so much free time to, do the dishes and dinner and cook and clean and all of
Free
that. And
time to do the dishes. Oh,
yeah.
Jordan.
Yeah. And so like then all that was just like out the window. And I was honestly just like so stressed. Like I barely created any content over last summer. I was like keeping my accounts moving and stuff, but I was like getting like sick. I was so stressed from that job. And like then I switched to where I'm at now, which was a way happier work environment, but still chaotic. For first couple weeks in, they flew me out to Denmark for a week to go to offshore rigs. And like if you know me, I hate traveling. Like most girls my age would be like just through the roof, like so excited to go to Denmark. But I'm like, oh man, like I'm not gonna be able to see my dogs for a week and like leave everyone at home. And so I say all this to say, like, I'm sure online I was probably like a little ray of sunshine. Because in general I was happy enough, but it is so like it just rattles you when you have to like go through those kinds of career changes, especially when you then do it to yourself of like, no, I'm gonna change my job again on purpose. Like, yeah, so that was my last year. Where I'm at today, I would say things have at least like settled in. Have they settled down? No, but we've settled in. So hope that answers your question. There's the tea. That's what happened.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think what we were talking about on the prep call that was just like, being in between jobs is stressful in and of itself, right? Like, and then to start a new job is exciting, but like there's just a level, again, you mentioned of stress that comes with it. You want to perform, you want to like show them that they made the right decision and
Hmm.
hiring you. But I think it's really important what that you kind of like recognize that it wasn't the right spot for you. And I think one thing that has come up again and again for you and why you were at IMS 2024 was, talking about like your personal brand and like your own
Hmm.
personal network and the benefit of that and how that community that you've built has like shown up for you again and again and again. Um, so you don't have to sit there and just live with it if it's
Yeah.
not good. Like yes, it's stressful, but bad jobs aren't worth it. And there's so many interesting companies out there, a lot of them on this call, yeah, John Franco, I just saw you nod your head. The manufacturing employer, he gets to talk to like a ton of like companies that really care about the culture that they're creating all the time. And I'm just seeing like Luke at MacTech and, just like everyone here, I'm just like, there's a lot of really good companies out there. So I just think it's awesome that you were like, even though your husband's like, oh God, just like, you keep charging forward to find the
I'm a
right fit.
little bulldozer. I'm like the only path is forward, like and yeah, he's an attorney, so he's very methodical, likes to think things out way in advance. And I'm just kind of like, you know what? We'll figure it out. Like I know we will. And I agree. I really was like I always thought that like, I had the LinkedIn community had my back because like I feel like I give a lot and like I always thought they'd be there, but I had no idea like how much they would be there. Like they really showed up and I was like, oh my gosh, like this was all so worth it, even just for the emotional support because people were just so nice. So many people reached out and so many people called me, even though they didn't like have a job or anything for me. They're just like, hey, do you want to talk through next steps? How can I help you? How can I advise you? And like it was an overwhelming amount of support. And I'm not saying if you have a LinkedIn presence, you for sure will get that. But I think the route of being more authentic, being more yourself is like really attracts the right people. And like when you connect with your audience so intentionally, then like they are right back there, like connecting with you. And maybe that, helps you lead to sales or job opportunities or whatever it is. But it's really just a cool thing to be a part of. And I felt very lucky. So thank you to everybody who was there during that time and still there today. You guys are awesome.
Yeah.
Yes. Speaking of that LinkedIn presence, though, first you had to create one.
Oh, yeah.
So how did you go about, in the early days developing your own personal point of view and, thinking for yourself out there on the social medias?
Yeah, I never like fully understood what I was doing at first. And I think that's a theme that you guys will learn getting to know me is I don't need all the facts to go into a situation. I'm willing to figure it out as I go and not afraid to mess up as long as no one else gets hurt or, loses money or anything. But when I was 19 or 20 years old, I worked for an oil and gas service company. And, I was only a couple years into my engineering degree. I had no experience in oil and gas. And I had to set up meetings for my boss with facilities engineers at oil and gas companies. And I'm like, I don't know any. Like, I'm a young girl. Like, I'm barely in college. Like, how would I know who to reach out to? And I don't know if I came up with myself or like who told me, but somehow I came across LinkedIn and I was like, oh, like I can connect with people here that I want to, get in the door with. And so at that time, I wasn't really creating content. I was just connecting with the kind of people I wanted to reach out to. And I would message them and be like, hey, we're going to be in Denver this week. Like, would you be able to like, have 30 minutes for us to stop by and introduce ourselves? And literally like in a couple months, I filled up that week in Denver. We had 20 appointments. Like we couldn't even make it to all of them. We were running late. We couldn't like get across town fast enough. Like we overbooked ourselves. And that was with no content. And I had like no resume really. Like I was just a girl reaching out. And it was so successful that when I then like, a few years later graduated and become a sales engineer and was in the same situation again of I don't know any industrial automation people that work in manufacturing that I can sell things to. How would I don't have like a Rolodex of all these people. Like I'm just a girl. Like and that's what I said. It was just a girl. Like what was I doing? And so I then again was like, oh, I remember last time LinkedIn like really worked, but this time I want to be faster, more effective. Like I know what I'm doing. And so that's when I started posting like selfies with variable frequency drives or robots or like, buttons and things. And I was like, what if people reached out to me? Like, and so that's when like the content piece came in of like the content was not great, but it was just me, recording really quick. I didn't even edit it. I would just upload right away and just say, like, hey, this is what I got. I'm Jordan. I work at XYZ. Hey, if I'm in your area, can I come over? And then people started to get to know me to when I reached out to them first, if I made first contact, it no longer felt like a cold message. And that was when I
Hmm.
was like, there's a science to this. Like there is something more to this. And then it just snowballed from there. Like every week I would send all my connection requests to my ideal customers. I kept creating content. The content got better. And like I got into so many tier one accounts to where I became like the Trojan horse for like my male coworkers where they wanted to get an account. I would be like, hey, can I come stop by? And then I'd bring them in because it was their account and I would like help them get in the door places. And they were just like, it's magical. Like, how do you do this? And so when I was in training, they all loved that I would just get them in everywhere. And yeah, that just kind of like became the foundation of what eventually was what my business is now of me doing it for other people.
Yeah, it's authentic though. And like like you said, you're doing it for other people. Like you found a recipe that works and
Hmm.
that you can replicate. So tell us more about like that. Like what are like the key pieces? I guess You sharing your recipe, Jordan?
Yeah, let's
What
get
you cooking
cooking.
over there?
So welcome to my kitchen. Here's my recipe. I feel like I'm doing an unboxing video. Um, so it's actually, side note, funny. Sorry, I have terrible ADD. Anytime I open a box at home now, like if I order something online, like my husband's always like, "Do you like an unboxing style with it?" And I'm like, "Okay, welcome to my channel, and we're unboxing it today." Because he's like, "It's like a personal unboxing, like you would do for your channel," but like it's become like an inside joke in our house. But yeah, we're online right now, so back to being serious. My recipe is it's been tuned. So what I thought at first was kind of like, I know for when I introduce people in my crowd, they usually like when I'm on camera because they know me. How do I get that to work for other people? Because some people just really struggle on camera. And I've realized like maybe if you don't want it bad enough and you're just forced to be on camera, like it's not going to work. So you need to first accept that if I'm going to be in videos, I'm going to have to like try. Like you need to have the like effort there. And by try, I just mean like light up a little, be yourself, pretend you're at a sales call. And then create the content itself. But the point of where it gets you to connect with people is you need to be sending those personal LinkedIn connections week over week. It's hard with my customers sometimes because some of them take it seriously and they will personally send the LinkedIn invites to the people they want to connect with. And so their content starts growing more organically. Some don't do that. And so it's just like they're tagged in videos, they'll repost, but they aren't sending enough connection requests. And so I think that point there is kind of what stops people from growing because we can't just expect to put a video out, go viral, and people follow us. You need to be intentionally curating the crowd that you want your videos in front of. And the nice thing about LinkedIn is a connection is like I send it to you, except we're connected now. And so pick the people that you want to see your stuff and you should make the first step to reach out. Don't just wait for the videos to like do their thing because it's not like Instagram where things just go viral and there's millions of followers because that will bring in a less curated crowd. So it's the mix of having your personality be what it actually is, try to get that on camera, have the consistency of the connections, and then cross promoting. So like if it's me in a video tagging someone or somebody like you guys, like what we're doing right now is literally cross promoting, like I'd post you to my channel, you post me to yours. And it's like we're sharing our audiences. And if you have somebody that's trusted in your community and they're on camera with you, then their audience trusts you because they think, okay, I vetted that person. They're probably good people. And so it just kind of compounds from there. And then there's, of course, the regular marketing stuff you plug in, like, email marketing, consistency of posting and things like that. But I don't think super high quality content is always what gets it through because, like, honestly, a lot of my videos have been kind of low quality and they're the ones that do better. Sometimes when I overproduce and I like try something new, it just doesn't get much traction. And I'm like, huh, I guess they like when I mess up or I'm like a little awkward or if it's not perfect and all the graphics aren't there. But it just kind of is like when your audience gets used to something, they like seeing what they're used to. And if you're going to start shifting, sometimes you have to do it slowly or else they're kind of like, who are you? You're not the same person anymore. So I've been pretty lucky where my audience is always like, we like you because you've always been yourself. So if you just be yourself, it's easy because then you don't have to like keep up with a facade. It's a
Mhm.
very like indirect recipe, but I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, like people aren't attached to the format, they're attached to you. And
Yeah.
so however way you want to present yourself is going to be the same to them.
Yep. And when I've been trying to not scale my business, but think about like I can't be on camera all the time in a bunch of places. I still have a day job. Like I don't love traveling and some of my customers are out of state. Like how can I still get miles out of like videos without me being on camera? Because I recently did some videos with one of my customers and I wasn't on camera and I was kind of testing it out and like I love them, but they were bad. Like they were not very like we we didn't coach them enough before going on. We were just kind of like, let's see how their personalities go. And like it didn't turn out super well. And so it was kind of like a learning curve there of like some people need me on camera with them to keep them on track. Then I have some customers that like don't. Like they actually have people at the place that like they do light up on camera. They are magnetic. Like they don't need me there. And so sometimes it's stressful of like, does every account I have need to have me on camera with them, or can we have them build their own personalities outside of me? Because how else would I just, not always just be in every single video? Like I want them to build their personal brand. So I've seen that as a bit of a roadblock there is like getting people that are willing and then also, I guess, capable and then willing to be consistent and are like disciplined with it. And so it's really dependent. Some of my accounts have, 1 to 2 people, and really that's all you need per company is just a couple that will do it right. And then it just mass spreads amongst everywhere else. But it's been a learning curve of like, there's people that do videos. Like I think Gorilla 76, you guys make videos for other people. It's not like you're in every video.
Mhm.
So I'd be interested to hear from you guys too, kind of like how you help make people that are on camera do better. Like, I don't know if that's something you guys personally have insights in, but I'd love to
Yeah,
learn that.
it'd be really nice if Nick Tacconi were here, who's our senior videographer at Gorilla, but he is like incredibly talented at making people feel at ease,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and just like calm. Like he feels very, it feels like he's very in control of the situation every single time, like he's recording. And this is on like our higher production value,
Yeah.
stuff. But if you're going to spend a chunk of change on a video, you don't want the interview that's framing the entire thing out to sound all stuffy and nervous and stuttered, and so like you've got to kind of keep it light for them.
Hmm.
The one piece that we're pretty consistent on, in term because you want that authenticity, right? You want them to
Yeah.
sound natural. So when you're choosing your subject matter expert, you're choosing an expert who can talk to you about whatever your video is about.
Yep.
So like Jordan, you were just saying like, oh, I missed the prep call. Well, like, shoot, it doesn't matter. Like we talked about it via email. We like hash out the outline, but this is something that you're really comfortable with, and you can just show up and talk about it because you're a subject matter expert. It's the same
Hmm.
thing with any like videos that you're doing with your company. Like if you choose the right person to talk about it and you just get them rolling, keep the camera going,
Yep.
you'll get those nuggets. Ask the same questions over and over in different ways, until they kind of cool off a little bit, or warm up maybe is a better way to say it, in front of the camera.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
I
those
like
are a
that.
few things.
Yeah, my quick and easy advice, I think I've said on the webinar before, but just try to picture somebody that you like and that would be interested in what you have to say, and think
Yeah.
about talking to them, not talking to an unknown amount of people.
No,
Um,
that's good. I like that because like for me, I can always get someone comfortable when I'm sitting next to them. It's when I'm on the other side of the camera and it's just the camera in front of them. I've yet to find the recipe to put someone at ease there. Unless like you say, you kind of like trick them into talking and you're just like press record and it's like you kind of catch them saying what you wanted them to say. But yeah, I would say that's definitely a piece where as I'm trying to grow my company and like have, I have a videographer on my team now and like I have another marketing girl on my team. It's like I want them to be able to have some of their own projects where I'm not like on camera for everything. And that's something where I'm like, I'm still learning that. So that's a learning curve for me right now. If like, hopefully you guys see some videos come out soon where I'm not in them and they're better than the ones that came out recently where I was not in them. So be on
yeah,
the lookout.
yeah, well, we definitely will be. And I feel like one of the things that can be a reason why people are afraid to get on camera, especially if they're representing their company, is that they aren't sure how to balance the company objectives with maybe their own personal growth, or even just like balancing the brand image with their own personality. So
Yeah.
like, how do you think about that?
It's hard because like there it depends on the company culture for one, because some do not want people to grow personal brands. And like, that company I worked at over the summer, they said wasn't good. That was kind of like a case there where anytime I would post anything that wasn't relative to the company, I would get like a nasty message on Teams from my boss being like, what are you doing? Like, I hate when you post that. I'm like, you knew I did this before we started. This is why you hired me. So it's kind of like if you have the positive reinforcement from management of like, we love to see you out there, like we love when you post, and you have that encouragement, I think people are more comfortable to get on camera and just be themselves. And then, like I said, be authentic to who you are. As long as you're not saying anything like super inappropriate that would get your company in trouble, then like just be yourself and people will gravitate towards you. And I don't think it hurts the company image if you're not, saying anything disrespectful or nasty. And then really just kind of comes from management driving the vibe there or the culture.
Yeah, it's tough. I think like as long as you understand your brand, which you're in marketing, so you should, right? And you understand, like, I guess, key talking points and key phrases that you need to avoid, um, specific to your brand. It's pretty, I would say it's easy to avoid those like sinkholes.
Yeah.
Um, and there's so much to talk about. I think Alan like made a really good point too, like talking another like a piece of advice that I've heard in the past and ways that I've thought about it for myself is like, any content that you're producing, like write it for your younger self.
Mm,
Um, just thinking about, okay, you're here where you're at now. If you would have known this a year ago, what would like where would you be now? Sort of thing.
mhm.
Kind of framing it out that way. And that sometimes gets the keys going, in the right direction, gives you something to say.
Yeah, that's why I like doing that love letter exercise. If somebody is like so like knowledgeable about what they do, but they're having a hard time, kind of having like that spark in their eye when they talk about it, I always will like have them write a love letter to the product or solution they're talking about. And it's like in my content creation for beginners guide thing, which is free on my website. And a little outdated, but it's in there. It's explained more thoroughly. But basically, say if it's like a robot or a cobot even, and it's doing assembly line, then I would like to write it from the perspective of the person I want to sell it to. So the assembly line worker who maybe their back hurts from having to pick something up repetitively every day, and now this cobot is coming in and it's helping them. It's like, oh my God, like Cobalt, like I love you so much because ever since you've come into my life, like I'm not doing these repetitive tasks. My back doesn't hurt as much. And I have so much more time at the end of the day where I feel good and I can hang out with my family because I'm not like hurting so bad. And just thinking about like the people whose lives you're actually impacting by these technical, possibly dry products we sell, if you can put yourself in the shoes of somebody who would really appreciate the value this brings beyond the ROI of, buckets moved in a day, then that's how you like really emotionally connect to these drier topics that are technical and kind of have like a spark around them. And if you really feel like you love the product you're selling and you love what it does for people and you're passionate about it, which people always like, oh, how do I get passionate about a sensor? And it's like, well, is that sensor going to stop, a door from cutting your fingers off? Like, I would love that sensor. I love having all my fingers. And a lot of maintenance managers don't have all their fingers. And they have stories as to why they don't have all their fingers. And so when you sell them automation parts that help them keep their remaining fingers, they're going to love it. And so if you can put yourself in that headspace, then you can really connect more and it comes through on video. But if you look at a product that's at the surface dry and you treat it dry, it's going to come off dry.
Yeah, I think that that's a point that you can make with like almost all of the messaging a company puts out. Where we hear a lot in B2B are like, well, they buy it because it's the price. Like there's not a deeper meaning here. Don't overthink it, kid.
Yeah.
Whereas like, yeah, there probably is though, because like if your product is getting aimed towards somebody that needs to save a bunch of money right now because they're going to avoid layoffs, that's going to be a different message, a different emotional context than the person who is just trying to get a big bonus that
Yeah.
quarter.
Yeah, no,
So
it's very nice to be able to emotionally connect with these things and it's not everything, but it is something, especially with the content creation side.
yeah. Do you have any other like tips and tricks about using your voice on LinkedIn that we haven't talked about so far, or just like little quirks about LinkedIn that people should keep in mind when they're trying to, get the most out of it?
There's like a few things. I mean, there's so many things with LinkedIn. One, the algorithm's always changing. So if you one week are getting a lot of impressions and the next week you're not, like just stay consistent with what you do. If you're always trying to chase the algorithm change, like it's not, I mean, sure you may get more numbers, but like don't spend so much mental space chasing the algorithms that you lose track of like the actual kind of content you should be creating. Like there's simple things like, oh, it's better to post at this time of day than this time. You should post X amount of times a week. Like you can look up like the best way to go about it tactically, but in terms of kind of like your results, just don't freak out if you don't get a lot of stuff on a post. Now, if you're never getting any traction on any post you're doing ever, maybe reevaluate and do something like asking people that you're connected with, what do you think of this content? Is it bringing you value? And I did that a couple of days ago with some of the Western content. I was like, does this as a network engineer bring you value? And he's like, I like it. It's a good video, but I actually would like to see XYZ instead next time. Like if you guys go deeper into it, ask people what they want to see. Sometimes it's hard to hear feedback though. I mean, it's uncomfy. Like we were talking about beforehand, some criticism is helpful, some is not, but you kind of have to ask people what they want because then if you post something and you kind of like do exactly what they asked and they see that, they're super loyal to you after that. And they like really support you because they feel heard. So I'd say just like kind of staying connected with your audience. Don't think I'm just posting out to people. Think I'm posting for people and like what they're going to do and make it a back and forth to where it's not just so like I'm an influencer and I'm so cool and everybody's obsessed with me. So they want to see everything I do. Like, be human, like have the relationship part of it like you would any person you talk to. We're going to talk to them, not at them. So it's my indirect tip.
Yeah, there's like the IKEA effect built in there.
Yep.
IKEA keeps coming up on this show these days.
Where's that
Interesting.
sponsorship at,
Yeah, yeah. Thinking beyond LinkedIn, and I know that a lot of us work remote these days, so our work is just inherently digital, but I think like when it comes to like job search and just like, your own professional development, um, I'd be curious, like, what has worked for you there? You mentioned some, like, a few times, like having good relationships with your boss, your managers,
Yeah.
and what that did for you versus having like unsupportive leadership in the past. But yeah, I mean, like any advice, like in the office, that you'd share, or, like ways that
Mm.
folks can kind of further their careers with those, I
Yeah.
guess, individual relationships.
Yeah, I would say it's funny because my current boss now is always trying to mentor me and like some of the stuff he's trying to beat out of me of like the other day he sits me down, he's like, Jordan, you're working too much. Like you shouldn't be this stressed. So sometimes it's like, work really hard, but like not too hard. I would say you want to go into every situation with integrity, which I feel like is an obvious thing to say, but like but you don't want to overshare because I overshare sometimes. So in my jobs that have gone really well, it's because like if I'm having an issue with my boss, like I just like ask the questions. And sometimes you have the kind of boss you can ask, sometimes you have the ones you can't, but like don't be afraid to ask the stupid questions because you could be doing your job for a long time and like missing something key because you were afraid to ask something that you thought may like make you look dumb, but like just don't be afraid to ask the questions to the people that you may want to look smart in front of, but at the end it'll make you do your job better if you have all the information you need. So just like kind of having the humble approach of, your boss when they hire you probably knows that like you don't know everything about that company and everything about the role. Just be honest through your learning experience and then show up and do the things you say you're going to do. Don't overpromise and underdeliver. People hate that. I don't know. I guess I've always just like had a knack for working because I just like, like having job security, which not sure if that even exists anymore, but like I've just like to show up, have a good attitude. It's actually really refreshing to work with people with good attitudes. I work in oil and gas, so everybody's really stressed out all the time and upset all the time. And so when I hired Lily on my team, the fact that like she was so excited every time I called her was very refreshing of like, oh my God, like this person is happy to be working. Like this is lovely. So just kind of like being somebody who's nice to be around, be yourself, be appropriate. I don't know. I guess I've never really been asked this question of like my actual job. It's always been all the things outside my job.
Yeah.
But if you do a good job and keep putting yourself out there, usually it attracts the right people, is what I've realized. Like, yeah, I guess I haven't reflected on that
Mhm.
enough.
Is there another level to it when you kind of have to use the goodwill that you've built up to try to make a big change that they might be reluctant to do, but you think is overall going to be best?
Yeah, I mean, there's gonna come to like can you make a business case for what you're asking for? Like, is what you say you want a promotion or you want to like do this next, like, do you have a business case? Are you thinking about the actual business impacts or are you just thinking about your personal growth and like your personal spot at the company? Like, I would say if you're going to try to make moves in business, you need to be practical. And so there's like a lot of things that work like, oh, I want this software. It's going to cost money. Okay, so I need to actually explain why I want it, how it impacts the business, like what's the ROI. Like you need to think things through. You shouldn't just like go out there and like ask for things or else you seem ignorant to the actual business processes themselves. So you need to think like, how does what I do directly relate to how the business runs and relates to the value that the customers are looking for, because the customers are the ones who fund our business. And so always tying what you do back to the value drivers for the customer will then in turn make you seem like a little bit more knowledgeable about how businesses work versus just trying to make your own life easier.
It's
Yeah.
almost like marketing, like internal marketing. The same strategies apply that you would use to, sell your product to an external customer. You should use those same strategies inside your company to advance your program.
Exactly. And so it's just kind of like having a bit of a business sense. And so it's something I've always naturally thought about of like, growing up, we didn't have like a lot of money. So if I really, really needed something, it's like I always felt like I was like selling it to my dad of like why I want this, like why I need this thing. And so I think I just always have had it ingrained in me of you don't just ask for things, like you have to have a reason why. And I don't know if that's healthy. We don't need to dig into that. But like in business, it's worked well for me of like, I see things more practically of, okay, if I want to spend capital here, what is my justifying reason? How does it impact the bottom line? And sometimes it's like you have to spend money for the sake of process improvement. And like, that's like a little bit different. But just think things through a little bit more versus just, asking for handouts and expecting everything to be easy. And yeah, I see someone use AI to summarize these things. Yeah, AI is really helpful in building business cases.
Yeah, especially for us anti-numbers copywriter people. Just gets
Um,
scary.
well, I know we're kind of rounding out our time here. I was curious, Jordan. You obviously do a lot of, self-guided learning, like you just kind of jump into things, experiment, test, iterate. That's like the vibe I get,
Yeah,
like from seeing you and like all of the content that you put out there. You're willing to just try it,
I'm a
and then
scientist.
yeah, exactly, exactly. But when you're not just like experimenting, where do you go to learn more? Like what are you doing to, you know, for your professional development? I know you go to conferences, but like what else
Yeah.
you got going on?
I would say honestly, like my learning type is more like reading. Like in school, I did really good, like reading all my textbooks and things like that. I'm a visual learner. So something I really like is looking at other marketing companies. Like I love True Marketing, which obviously like, hosts the Industrial Marketing Summit. They have some really good guides on their pages, which are so in depth and related to what we do as industrial marketers. And so I like going through reading their PDFs and learning from them because they actually were our content writers when I worked at Knowles. And so like I had been learning from them for years by like doing content with them back and forth. And so kind of like having somebody that you either work with or like mentors you indirectly, even that you can like bounce ideas off of, because being a non-traditional marketer, it's so valuable to learn from traditional marketers because you guys are trained in this stuff. Like you actually, know why you do these things. I just do it and then I'm like, oh my God, that worked. Wow, that's so exciting. I'm gonna do it again. But like you guys that are more traditional, you have these methods for a reason. And so I'd say learning from people like that. I mean, Gorilla 76, you guys are an awesome company as well. So just kind of like finding people that you want to learn from. Some of them have resources on their page, some you can just reach out to and talk to. I mean, like in January, like Eileen and I got on a call and we just kind of like went back and forth. We're bouncing ideas. And I was like, I don't think there's anything I necessarily can like charge you guys for right now. But if you just want to like brainstorm ideas, like we can brainstorm together. And so that was like a fun way to just kind of like, pass some ideas around. I mean, I don't know that every marketer is going to like, do that for free, but just build personal relationships with people that you want to learn from. And then they'll take the time to teach you and then just Google things. You could chat GPT it. I like podcasts. If I'm about to go speak at a conference, I listen to all the latest podcasts on like what's up with SEO, what's up with like this marketing trend, and like make sure I'm up to date on all the trends because this shit changes so fast. And so
Yeah.
I'll just like driving to a conference, I'll listen to a bunch of different podcasts. And if I'm doing my workout that morning, I'm still listening to another podcast, and they may not all be relevant, but it gets the ideas moving in my head of like, okay, here's what's going on. So just staying plugged in that way. Like I like learning from podcasts more than I do just like quick tips videos because those are more
Yeah.
clickbaity, to where I feel like stuff like this, especially, this is where you learn. So yeah, just kind of a little mixed bag of a lot of different things.
Yeah, I have totally listened to April Dunford's, like, there's one episode of her show that I think I have listened to probably 13 times
Oh
because
my God.
every time I'm about to go into like a positioning workshop of any sort, I'm like, I just need to listen to this one more time. You
I
know,
love
just
that.
just like just to because I know it. I could almost like regurgitate the episode by heart, but it just like
Yeah.
gets you thinking again and again about how you want to tackle something, new
Mhm.
ideas.
What
No,
are the
it's nice to
pod?
hear it.
Yeah, what are the podcast recs people are dying to know?
Honestly, like the crazy thing is I don't actually follow any in particular. I will just type in a topic and click the first couple ones that come up. I could look through my history and see, I mean, I love the True Marketing podcast. What is it called? Like content
Content
mark
marketing engineered.
that one I love. And it's just also because I love Wendy. Like she's great to listen to. They've that one I used to listen to pretty religiously like over the last year. And then which I mean we need to be plugging True Marketing here. Gosh, they're so good. And the ladies are so great. I can't say enough
They're
nice things about
wonderful.
them.
Literally
Yeah.
wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah, I be talking too nice about people. I'm always just hyping everybody up. I need to get more into shit talking. No, I'm just kidding. Be a balanced person, you know?
That's what we're
But
missing.
yeah, so watch reality TV with me and you'll hear all the shit talking you need. But sorry, back to the podcast. I think there was one called like the digital marketing podcast. Like it's pretty random. I look up more by topics than I do follow specific ones. So it's basically like has someone recently in the last 2 months talked about this trend? Because if it's like 2 years old, it's not going to be relevant. So it's basically I look more by topics than I do specific podcasts. So I know that's not super helpful, but you guys can search topics as well and then click your first podcast. And if I had an overwhelmingly good one, I would know it off the top of my head. But yeah, the True Marketing one's the only one I could think of that I've consistently listened to, whether or not it was a topic I thought I needed to learn about. I'm like, I know I'll learn something either way if I listen.
Yeah,
Yeah,
good
I've
tactic there.
done the search function too. One of my favorite ways to find new shows. Cool. Well, shoot, what a great time. I've been so appreciative of having you on the show, Jordan. I even just like in the 10 minutes before we opened up the Zoom room today, I was like, man, I like we were just kind of getting all the things running, and I'm like, you're the perfect person to talk to about just riding the waves of your own career and pushing forward, being that bulldozer, like you said. I just love it. So really appreciate you coming on the show today. What's next for you?
Oh, probably lunch. No, I was kidding. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I just hired a couple of girls on my team. They're super part-time. So it's like, we're not to the point where we can have full-time people on the team yet, which I'm always like pushing them up. I'm like, if anyone wants to poach them for a full-time job, they're young girls, like I support it. So I'm always helping them with their resumes too. But honestly, just trying to build up my team and go from doing everything myself that I have been doing myself the last 2.5 years and just looking to like mentor a little bit, give back to them, and then see if I can become a little more hands off with some of the like day-to-day tasks and try to get back to more spending time with my dogs and my husband and like cooking dinner more than once a week. So if anything, it's not really that I'm going to be doing more. I'm actually trying to learn how to do less. So that's very uncomfy for me. I'm addicted to working because it's like the only thing I'm really good at. And it feels rewarding when I make my customers happy, but I also need to focus on what's going on in my home. Like, why am I doing all of this? And so, I mean, I'm technically legally married, but we're gonna have our wedding in November. So I'm trying to, focus on working on our wedding and like doing that kind of stuff. So I know that's not like the most inspirational career stuff, but I'm 26. I want to not get so addicted to work that I pass by, some of the best moments in my life because I'm sitting behind a screen all day. So really what I'm trying to do in my career next is a little bit less. So
It's
Yeah.
incredible.
Now that
Yes.
you've learned to do more, can you learn to do less?
Yeah.
honestly, I don't know. I'll ask my therapist this afternoon.
Okay, so if folks want to hear more from you, where can they do that? I know Failing for You podcast, guessing podcasts everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, like, I haven't really posted much on the Failing for You podcast. This year's been so crazy that I posted one episode as an extended for season 2. Season 3 is gonna come out eventually because I love doing that and I love the message behind it, but it's not super up to date. Where I really am up to date is just kind of like LinkedIn right now. That's been my main place. Eventually Failing for You. If you guys want to go back and listen to the episodes, I think most of them are pretty funny. Like I mean, it's not like a humor podcast, but it is funny sometimes the way we like look back at the dumb stuff we've done. So it's, yeah, you can listen to those, but there won't be any new ones for a bit.
Cool. Awesome. Well, Jordan, thanks again for coming on the show. Thank you, everybody, for showing up. We loved to see you. Our next episode of IMC Live is going to be on March 20th, and we're leaning into spring. I know it like was snowing in St. Louis earlier this week, so wishful thinking maybe, but spring cleaning is going to be the topic. We're going to talk about, refreshing content, cleaning up your CRM, maybe cleaning up your strategy, thinking about how to tighten things up. And between now and then, if you'd like to keep the conversation going, I think a lot of folks here are active on LinkedIn. So if you see somebody, you want to reach out to them there, great, do it. I encourage that. But we also have circle discussion boards on the Industrial Marketing Collective. So if you're interested in that, you can reach out to myself or Alan. We'd be glad to get you on to the collective. And for everyone that came to the Industrial Marketing Summit last week, it was great to see you. It was great to see you. It's always great to see you guys on the show. And we are looking forward to providing more helpful content to help you guys all advance your careers and improve your programs. So here for it. Let's do it. I think that's everything. Am I forgetting anything,
Yep.
Alan?
No, I think we covered it. I think until next time, we're good to go. I appreciate it, everybody.
Thank you guys. This was really fun. This was an hour well spent.